Welcome back to the main event stage where we now have the players ready for the feature match. Let's bring them in, shall we? In the red chair, we got Alec Drinkwater. Hello, Alec. Please come here. So how are you feeling about having a feature match?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've watched Tom do it enough times, Tom Rose, so, yeah.
Okay. So he's basically one of the guys testing with you?
Yeah.
So you're not too nervous?
No, not in the slightest.
All right, not even close. Okay. How did your tournament go so far, those first 3 rounds?
So I had 2 relatively easy matchups, round 1 and 3, both going second decks, and yeah, they didn't do a lot of the winning going second. And then I lost to one of my friends I came up with round 2 playing the mirror match. So.
All right. How easy was it for you to get here, and where are you from exactly?
So I'm from Bristol in England. Literally 2 hours on the coach to London. So super simple. Yeah, no time at all.
What is the best thing about having the tournament at the Comic-Con?
So you're never sad about dropping it this one. This is the one that you have the least pressure to do well, so you can play like a super high variance deck if you want to and just, enjoy it. And then, you have guaranteed entertainment on Sunday between sides and then the Comic-Con. So like, yeah, it's just good fun all around.
All right, I'll make sure next time we're going to hire you for doing the features that we do over there. Well, thank you very much. Have a seat, please. His opponent in this round is going to be Yuqi Qin. Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
How are you doing? You seem quite a bit stressed, or are you feeling excited about this feature match?
Actually, okay. The last game was pretty tense. Even though I lost, but we loved the entire match. That was so close. 100 life point difference.
All right. And but you made it. You're still undefeated. What was your expectation going into the tournament?
I don't know. This is my first ever formal tournament, so I hope I don't know. I just want to go forward as far I can get.
All right. So far so good. And basically, let's see where you're going. Do you know this guy? Are you intimidated by him?
A little bit. He looks so smart.
Okay, that's very nice. Well, thank you very much. Please have a seat as well. So guys, I promised you new features. We had the first with our running reporter. Now we got a second new feature. We're going to do the official die roll here. If I bring this over to you guys, and if you can quickly roll the die, we got Thomas, our judge, who's going to confirm that. Oh, yeah. And who is going... Oh, sorry. That's a tie. Do it again. 4. And we heard Alex just giving away. That's fine. All right, Yuqi is gonna start the match. He decided to go first. With that, guys, we know everything we need to know over here. Let's take you to the table of our casters, Dom and Tom, the dynamic duo of Yu-Gi-Oh! Casters.
Welcome back to YCS London. Yes, we're ready for the start of the next match. Alec Drinkwater versus Yuqi Qin. We're excited. This is quite a different matchup because in the field we've seen a lot of True Draco, a lot of Sky Striker, a lot of Thunder Dragons. Yeah. So 2 different decks here.
We got Mermails, which is a real blast from the past. I mean, they've obviously been sort of slowly getting new cards. Occasionally they have the Neptibus, which came out a few years ago now. I actually have no idea. A while ago. It wasn't in the first round of Mermails, but it was pretty good. And we're seeing the inclusion of Sekka's Light, which is a very cool card. I really am a fan of decks which just run 40 monsters or whatever, or in 37 now with Sekka's Light. So it's just an amazing card in the full monster lineup because it's better than Pot of Greed.
Yeah, I mean, Alex playing Alter Guys, which we know all well about. It's a very popular deck choice up until now. Very popular at Worlds, actually, I can confirm as well. So how do we feel this one's going to go?
It's a nice name drop there. I've been to Worlds, says Dom.
Well,
we've seen the dice roll, which is good for Yuqi because he's got a very explosive deck, and Alec is only running the solitary. He's running 3 Ash and 3 Impermanence, but it looks like Alec's really prepared for that Sky Striker matchup. He's got 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcasters and 3 copies of Metaverse to search the Secret Village of the Spellcasters, but Yuqi plays 3 spells.
Well,
not ideal.
Let's have a
go.
Let's have a go. They're ready for us at the match table, so we're heading there now.
We're not ready yet.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so let's keep talking about their
decks. So we've also got the new Nimble monsters being featured. So we've got Nimble Beaver, which is able to search, and Nimble Angler, which is able to summon more Nimble monsters from the deck, which are quite fun cards. The Angler, the Sunfish, and Well, it's quite fun just having all these random beast monsters in the deck, which can be triggered off the 2 copies of Gen X Undyne can trigger Nimble Angler, I believe, and Nimble Beaver can also just trigger when it's summoned.
A personal favourite of mine in if we're going to stick out the Yuki deck is the Swap Frog.
Oh yeah, I love Swap Frog. Is
I
great.
absolutely love frogs. I mean, I was a big
Such
fan
a
of
good
the whole Lancer deck back in
Oh
the
God,
Do you remember?
that is a very old deck. Yeah, I used to play
I'm
that.
showing my age again, Tom. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm kind of rooting for the Mermails here. I think just based on the fact that the Swap Frog is in there.
Just based on the Swap Frog
Yeah.
to make that totally awesome.
Yep.
There's
And
more terrible pun potential.
anything in the main deck that either of these two will struggle with in their main decks before they go to the sides, or
I mean, we've basically just got 6 dead cards in Alec's deck, being the Secret Village of the Spellcasters and the Infinite Impermanence to search the Secret Village. So he's really, if he sees those, I mean, that's just rubbish for him.
okay.
Because he's really prepared for the Sky Striker matchup, and this is not the Sky Striker matchup, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we're now ready to begin the match, so we're going to head over to the table now. As we can see, the hands are already loaded in. Yuki's got the Abyss Sphere,
He has.
Rolling Toadin,
I mean,
Droll
Abyss,
Lockbird.
I'm not sure about the inclusion of Abyss Sphere, if I'm totally honest, because, I mean, it's sort of so-so.
Totally honest.
Totally honest. No, I
Ah.
did say totally honest.
Okay.
I didn't mean to make a pun.
I thought you were making puns.
No, I'm not on your level yet, Dom.
Oh, well.
But I mean, the Abyss Sphere is there as the solitary search target for Abyss Megalo. And it depends whether you think it's worth the fact that it's possibly dead after you've used Sekka's Light. In this case, he's not drawn the Sekka's Light. You really don't ever want to draw Abyss Sphere anyway, because you want to. The only reason it's really there is so you can search it. I'm not sure it's like that great a draw. Because I mean, it used to be one of the best cards in the deck.
Mm.
But now the idea of waiting a turn to activate a card is just abhorrent to me, you know. Not sure about it. Traps.
I'm a big fan of trap cards.
You're a big fan of trap cards?
One of the best things about the anime was, you've activated my trap card. I used to love that. Come on, I'm one of those. So
You're one of those.
But no, I totally get what you're saying. There's an evident shift towards monster cards, if you like, in the main decks.
Or hand impermanence.
Yes.
A card you can use without having to set it first.
Yes.
We see this immediate Mulan Glacier, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, he's rolled a 6. You don't want to roll a 6 when you're choosing between 1 to 5. Doesn't really matter though, you just get to roll it again. Oh, that's nasty. Those are 2 good cards. You probably don't want to lose both of the good cards.
Well, he still has that one Altergeist monster, and he the Solemn Strike and the Upstart. How do we feel about those at this point?
Pretty good. I mean, a Solemn Strike is more of a powerful card going first, I would say, because before your opponent's set up, once they've got a big board, only negating one of them is quite underwhelming.
Yep.
But if you can sort of stop a long chain of plays, then it can just shut your opponent down for a turn.
What's he going to draw off this Upstart?
We'll see. I'm interested why he didn't set Abyss Sphere. I don't really know why he kept it in his hand, if I'm honest.
Okay.
Maybe he's just never planning on using the Abyss Sphere. Maybe it's just supposed to be discard fodder for Nightmares. Maybe that's it. Maybe I've been seeing it all wrong.
It's those master plans, Tom.
It is, because I mean, that would make sense. You can still have the Abyss Sphere in the deck and discard it for Nightmares, even with Sekka's Light, so maybe he's just never planning on using it. Very unfortunately for Qin is the fact that the Meliseek can just easily get rid of the Mulan Glacier, which will prevent him from having a battle phase next turn. If I'm going to be honest, I think this is a bit of a mistake from Alec linking away that Meliseek now, because he's under Droll and Lockbird. Shall we inform the... Qin's going to tell him. Yeah, that's not really... Because if he just left it on the field, then it might have died next turn, then he would have got the search, which is what he wanted. But now he's fresh out of Altergeists, which is not really what you want, especially with the the metaverse and the personal spoofing don't work. So he has got the strike, and I expect the strike will get baited out immediately by Swap Frog. So the life points have been correctly updated as well, because Melisik was receiving a 500 attack boost from Miss Starboy. Very important they didn't miss that. Extra 500 attack Melisik. I think the table judge is just confirming.
Yeah, it looks as though.
I don't know if he gets a procedural error warning or not, because the opponent did catch it.
Yeah, they're definitely discussing that right now. So
yeah, nothing gets past Kiwi. He's
it must be said, the judges and the staff here, they really work hard. Big shout out to all of those guys. They really make this event come together. All of our events. Without them, it's not possible. So
I'm not sure Qin's that annoyed. He spotted it in time.
He's
honestly, I don't think Alec is the type to try and sneak something past. I think he just genuinely forgot.
Yep. And I think Qin's really laid back. He's like, they've explained the situation and they're moving forward now. So Swap Frog comes down.
I mean, Qin's elected to special summon the Swap Frog.
You would have done something different?
I would have just normal summoned it.
Okay.
I don't really get the benefit. I don't really know what else he was going to normal summon, considering he's got no other monsters in his hand. I don't really know why you would just discard a card. Because he would just still have had the same thing would have happened. He wouldn't have had his normal summon. He would have had the infantry in his hand, which seems better than just not having the infantry.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't really know that one. So he can't attack because of the Mulan Glacier.
And he just passes.
Well, he's got nothing else to do.
Yep.
So I think if Alec sees an any Altergeist card, he can shovel it back with spoofing and he'll be happy. But I don't know if he has seen an Altergeist card, so we'll have to wait and see. But until such a time as he sees an Altergeist card, oh, that's not an Altergeist card. That's an Ash Blossom. Begins with an A, but then it fails.
Is that going to serve him at any point in this matchup?
I mean, it certainly might. In this sort of situation where the players are top decking and they're just waiting to see a card which gets their engine going again, Ash might set your opponent back further one extra turn. But obviously, you haven't done anything yourself this turn when you drew the Ash, so I think he'd much rather have seen an Altergeist card.
So Qin draws into the Marksman, which was one of those sturdy Atlantean monsters which helped the Marksman go off.
Marksman's pretty powerful here because he is going to be able to force through a direct attack with it and summon. Dragoons is back to 3 now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So he's going to be able to summon Dragoons, and they're all getting 500 extra attack. If I'm honest, I would have summoned the Toad in attack mode as well because it's got more attack than Link Karibo. It could have forced out the tribute effect. And I think, well, he's going to link away the Starboy anyway. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't think that was really necessary. I think he could have just put the Ronin Toad in attack mode and attacked the thing with Ronin Toad and kept them as Starboy. But I mean, it's at this situation, it's kind of.
And I think,
there's
again,
a number of different routes to attacking the game.
But from your experience, is that just a preference? Is that just a player preference? Because as we see there, Qin he was in such a strong position, and he attacks the game there and takes the.
To me, in that situation, he's discarded a card from his hand to get rid of he's used the Nightmare Unicorn from his extra deck. He's discarded a card from his hand that he could have just kept in his hand to get rid of a monster that has 300 attack points. He could have just attacked that with Ronin Toad.
Well, nevertheless,
I mean,
Yuqi
he had
Qin
game
takes the first game.
So
He had a real strong start with Mulan Glacier, taking away 2 of those Altergeist monsters. He managed to continue the momentum. He looked quite comfortable, in all honesty. So
yeah, his opening hand was not super explosive, but sometimes that Mulan Glacier just does enough just by itself, which we saw. It knocked 2 Altergeist monsters out of Alec's hand. So without that, I think Alec would have been really happy. It shut off the personal spoofing. The Metaverse was always going to be dead because Qin plays very, very few spell cards.
Yep.
And I expect those are all now going to get sided out. So this is one of the nice things about taking a sort of rogue deck to an event, is Alec's probably going to say, okay, I need to side out these 3 Secret Village and Metaverse, and then go, all right, what do I side in? You need to take out some cards, and then there's actually, there's almost nothing in his deck.
Well, you made that analysis before we started the match, actually, that, Alex's deck is geared up to face Sky Striker.
It really is. But the side deck is built to beat things like Thunder Dragon. It's built to beat the Danger deck. There's cards, and there are some sort of generic going second cards.
So he could be up against it here.
Yeah, I really can't see what he wants to bring in. I mean, he could bring in a copy of Trap Trick. That seems fairly generic. But there aren't that many normal traps in his deck, with the exception of Metaverse.
And if we look at Yuqi Qin's deck, what are we thinking about that he could bring in here?
I mean, he knows he's playing against a lot of traps.
Yep.
So
and he seems to have quite a lot of
spell and trap removal.
And he's got the Twin Twisters. He's got 2 Cosmic Cyclone.
Those might find their way in, but it's always a toss-up when you're... I mean, to my mind at least, when you're playing Sekka's Light. Sekka's Light is such a powerful card. You have to ask yourself, am I that scared of any back row my opponent's going to play that I'm willing to side out Sekka's Light in favour of more spell and trap removal? I'm more of a fan of this new card, Dino Wrestler Pancratops, which I'm probably going to say wrong, which can special summon itself if your opponent controls more monsters than you do. And it's got a quick effect, which it contribute any Dino Wrestler monster once per turn, including itself, which is mainly what you do, to destroy any card your opponent controls.
Sounds interesting.
So it's a really good out to any sort of floodgate or any sticky card your opponent might have, and you can just put it on the field, and worst case scenario, it's a pretty powerful effect, to be honest. If you compare this to, compare it to Cyber Dragon, it's easier to summon than Cyber Dragon, it's got more attack, and it's got a quick effect which pops any card on the field.
Sounds
it's a
good.
pretty powerful card all
Sounds good
round.
to me. So the players are well underway in this second game, and Alec wasted no time in link summoning that Link Karibo
Once
and
again,
setting one to the field.
I think Alec's probably going to be a little bit disappointed with his hand here, because the Altergeist deck runs a fairly low monster count, and he's drawn 4 out of 5 cards monsters, and nothing to stop.
Including the one he link summoned away. 5.
Yeah, I mean, that searched another one, though.
Okay, so it's not terrible.
Yeah, but it's not ideal, because the Altergeist deck doesn't have any way to get extra monsters. Until he can... They only normal summon themselves, pretty much, apart from Multifaker. So the fact that he had 3 normal summonable monsters in his hand means he just has to wait 3 turns to use them. They're effectively dead until he can normal summon them.
And Yuki, on the other hand, he's got plenty of...
he's got plenty of gas, yeah.
Yes, he looks to be in a real strong position right now.
So that infinite impermanence being... I think that's a fair use of the impermanence. That stops Yuki searching Dragoons with Neptibus. I mean, he still gets the first Dragoon search. Can Dragoon search itself? I should know that. I played with Mermails before, you know. I don't think it can.
I don't think it can.
No. Most cards can't search themselves. One card which can, Toon Table.
Let's have a look.
I suppose Mystic Tomato can. No, it can't search Dragoons. Okay, that's good to know. That seems fairly reasonable.
And that impermanence, you're saying that was a good use of that card as well?
I think it's sort of a reasonable use. I mean, it's stopping one search. It's not anything like super clutch, but it gets it out of the way.
So he's revealing the Mermail
So yeah, he's
Bismegalo.
Yeah, Megalo, very old school card. 2 copies of infantry, so he's going to get 2 pops. So they do stack. You are allowed to use as many of them as you like in a turn. Yeah, he's chosen to leave the Silquitus on the board, which honestly I think those were the incorrect targets. I think if you target the Silquitus, then you have to chain it then and there, and then the Silquitus just gets destroyed because Silquitus can't return itself to the hand. So if he targeted the Silquitus rather than the Multifaker, then the Silquitus would have gone to the graveyard and the Multifaker would have gone to the hand, instead of the Silquitus staying on the field and the Multifaker going to the hand, which is less good. So has he got...
I mean, he's having a real good think here as well, Yuki. You know, I think...
So he's not searched Sphere that I can see. Maybe he sided out the Sphere. Yeah, and he's just passed. So he's suffering a similar problem to Alec, which is drawing lots of normal summons.
Let's see what Alec drew.
Trap Trick. So I think we might see the Altergeist deck start to take over this turn, because he's got that card, Marionetta, can send itself to the graveyard to summon any Altergeist card from his graveyard. So he's got the option of getting the Meliseek into the graveyard in order to just get the Megalo off the field. Or he could have instead, which is what he's chosen to do, or he could have summoned the Silquitous to have the Silquitous on the field. Because now he's not going to have a Silquitous on the field next turn, because even though he's got Multi-Faker in his hand, it can only pull one out the deck, and he only runs 2 copies of Silquitous, which is fairly standard to only run 2 copies, but one's in the graveyard and one's in his hand, so this Multi-Faker can't pull one out the deck anymore. He's got the Trap Trick, and I'm not sure what targets he's got other than Infinite Impermanence for the Trap Trick. Do you know? What do we have? Trap Trick requires you to banish a normal trap, and then you get to set a normal trap with the same name. Is that correct? Does it have to be a normal trap?
Trap Trick. Banish one normal trap from your deck, except Trap Trick, and set one card of the same name directly from your deck.
So it has to be a normal trap. So looking at his main deck, the only thing I see that he can set with Trap Trick is Infinite Impermanence, which again, it seems fairly underwhelming. You probably want to be searching a more powerful card. I think the aim of Trap Trick is to search out Metaverse to then get to the Secret Village of the Spellcasters to shut down the Sky Striker deck.
So Qin draws into
Called by the Grave, which is a sort of fine card. So we can see he has obviously elected to side out the package of Sekka's Light.
Just a bit of back and forth again at the table there.
Oh, this old school plays, summoning that Abyss Pike, discarding a gun, get back a Mermail. So, do you remember doing that?
Takes me back to, I want to say like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, people were doing that in 2013. It's pretty fun.
Not 100% sure, but I think it's about that time.
So Qin has got this issue of having the extra normal summons, which you don't want, because, you know, all monsters which needs to be normal summoned, drawing 3 of them mean you can only use 1 of them in a turn. I'm pretty sure that is an old card as well. Abyss. I don't even know what it's called. I know it summons itself. Abyss Dine.
Yep.
Yeah, you can summon itself when you add it. And then maybe it summons a Mermail from the grave as well.
When this card is
you can
special
use
summon,
one of the effects. Okay. So yeah, it's just going to summon itself from the hand. There's an extra link material. That seems okay.
So how do we think this match is going? Who's it favouring right now?
At the moment, I think Alec's in a bit of a weak position because he's not going to be able to get that Silquitous out. And not having the Silquitous out means, you know, even though he can summon the Multi-Faker from his hand, it's not actually going to offer him any interruption to what his opponent's doing. His opponent is just going to be able to continue attacking. So I think Qin's going to have the option here either to tribute the one of his monsters to get more damage in, or keep it and do less damage, which seems to be what he's going for. So yeah, just attack with Abyss Dine. Has Abyss Dine got 1,000 attack?
We can check.
We can check. There we go.
And it does.
It does. It just needs to have more than, I don't know, 300, which it does, to force out the Link Karibo. So yeah, it's a bit awkward here, not having access to a Silquitous for Alec, because his monsters now are just going to get attacked over, and he's going to be in the same sort of situation. Even though he's not really lost anything, he's not really gained anything, and I can't really see a good way for him to get onto the field and start creating some board presence of his own without the Silquitous.
And all the while, is this doing Qin a lot of confidence? Is his confidence growing with this, the way the game's developing, or should he still be cautious? Because in the first game, it felt like Qin was a little bit cautious with the match when he made that play to summon the Link monster first. Rather
I mean,
than
I think he saw a way to attack for game and attack for game.
Yep.
This time, unfortunately, there he's just shown Alec the call by the grave by mistake. So you can't use it in the damage step. So if you attack over a monster which uses its effect when it's sent to the graveyard, then its effect to add will be used in the damage step. So he could have used the call by the grave preemptively if he'd wanted to, because there was another copy of Maliseek in the grave. But he chose not to do that, which is fair enough.
And now he's looking to link summon.
That's a Nightmare Phoenix. It's quite one of the nice interactions is that the Nightmare Mermaid is a water monster, so it does actually trigger the Atlantean effects if you discard one of them for it. Sadly, Phoenix is not water.
No.
It is fire. It is the opposite of water. I think we're going to see Qin start to run out of resources a little bit now, because that Phoenix is almost certainly... it's not getting negated. Okay. I thought it was going to get negated, if I'm going to be honest. But each to their own.
He sets the copy of Called by the Grave to the field.
Yeah, I think Alec's going to know what that is, if I'm going to be totally honest. He's going to know that's Called by the Grave because he's already seen it, and Mermail really don't set that much. So I would say he's going to be happy now. So yeah, as identified, that was the only target for Trap Trick in his deck. But yeah, as we say, like, Trap Trick just setting an infinite impermanence seems so horrible, but I think he just had to side it in because there's nothing else to side in his side deck for Mermail.
And he's just having a good look at the graveyard now.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking about Called by the Grave. I'm interested that he's just flipped that now. I mean, it is chainable, so I don't really... Oh, he's doing it... You can't do it in the end phase. So Alec is getting some use out of the second effect of Infinite Impermanence.
Impermanence, yeah.
To stop. So, I mean, that was quite clever of him because he deliberately set the Impermanence in the same column as Called by the Grave. So now we're going to see the Altergeist deck start to sort of...
Turn the screw.
Flex its stuff a bit, yeah. Despite his fairly slow start. I think King kind of suffered the same problem.
Yeah, it did seem like the match took a little bit longer.
He had all the normal summons in his hand as well.
Yep. And like you highlighted, they can only normal summon once per turn, which is where the special summoning comes in.
Exactly, special summoning is good. Start to see some of the fancy Link monsters. The Link monster of Altergeist is pretty good. It really takes the game and then it really just seals the game once you start seeing Altergeist Link monsters come down. I mean, it takes a while for Altergeist to get to a situation where they can start making Link monsters, but once they're on the field, they're massive. You know, they're big. They search cards when they are sent to the graveyard. They can negate spells and traps. They can also negate the effects of spells and traps, which is really powerful. So they can not only negate the activation, but they can negate an activated effect of a spell or trap card, which not a lot of cards can do. And sometimes it might catch people by surprise. So if you've got like a face-up Draconic Diagram, for example, almost every card in the game which negates spells and traps negates the activation of a spell or trap. So if you already had a face-up one, then you could safely activate it, but you can't do that against a Hextia. Yeah. And they also gain attack points. So we're going to see Alec dealing a bunch of damage this turn. He can trade that Marionetta in for something now if he wants to, but I don't think there's anything with more attack points than it. So I'm not sure there's a reason.
Yeah, he just...
I think he might as well trade it for the Maliseek or Silquitus if... I mean, he might get the Maliseek if he's got still targets to search, because you don't play that many monsters in the Altergeist deck, and he's seen a lot of them already, so I've not been keeping exact track. He might just not have any more searchable cards, so he's gone for the Silktus instead.
It's always good to see monsters coming back from the graveyard.
You like it?
Yes.
Like Disc Commander.
Like Disc Commander,
Did you like summoning Disc Commander back in the day?
I did.
I'm sad it's not gone.
Destiny Hero Dasher.
Destiny Hero Dasher didn't summon anything from the graveyard.
Oh, didn't it? It's special summons.
It special summoned something that you drew for turn during your draw phase. It was good in the graveyard. You could only do that if it was in the graveyard. One of the more confusing Yu-Gi-Oh effects, I would say, actually, because it requires you to keep track of it. It's a once per while it's in the graveyard ability, which I don't think anything else works like, because it stays in the graveyard. It doesn't say... I don't think Dasher is once per duel. I think like once while it's in the graveyard. I might be wrong. I mean, not that anyone's used Destiny Hero Dasher for a while.
long time, yes.
But it has got a fairly unique effect.
So we see the effect of Undyne here.
Is just getting negated.
Yep.
Alex decided he's not negating Undyne, he's
I think
negating
he concedes that there with that negation.
Dragoon's search. I was going to say, it makes more sense to negate the Dragoons.
So we really see the Altergeist deck grinding out there. Even though it took them both a little bit of time to get going, it seems like Alec, in the end, just had a little bit more momentum. Maybe going into the search for that second impermanence was the game changer there.
Honestly, I think in terms of like grinding, Altergeist, if Altergeist has its engine going, it's one of the most powerful decks in the game.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of decks are like that once they get their engine going. But Altergeist is essentially like, if you look at decks, generally newer decks are more powerful. And Altergeist, to my mind, is one of the most powerful decks once it gets its engine going. It starts to have like multiple bounce effects per turn. It has a card which negates one monster effect per turn. You can negate spells and traps. You can block attacks. You can basically do everything once you have access to all the cards. I think what makes Altergeist less powerful than some of the other decks right now is the consistency with which it gets its engine going and the speed with which it gets its engine going. It normally takes a couple of turns. So you normally, the Faker, to trigger the Faker, you need to activate a trap card, and most of the time that requires you to set a trap card and then activate it first. If you're lucky enough to draw Infinite Impermanence and Faker, then you can do it a little bit quicker. But other than that, it takes a little while to get going. But once it gets going, I think there's very, very little that's going to outgrind it or out-resource it.
So it's one apiece heading into the third match. They're shuffling up. They've sided. Who do we think is going to take this, Tom?
Honestly, I could go either way. The Altergeist deck, I think, if it sees we could see like Mermail is definitely capable of explosive starts.
And would you say more so than the Altergeist, as you've highlighted?
Oh yeah. Altergeist just don't have explosive starts. There's nothing. The deck just can't do anything explosive. It can summon like 3 monsters in a turn on its first turn. That's about it. Compared to the Mermail deck, which is, with the use of Gunblar Dragon and Mulan Glacier, is actually capable of discarding its opponent's entire hand. Gunblar
that
can
sounds
do 4.
really good.
I don't know how well. I mean, it's probably quite a difficult combo. I mean, Gunblar can do 4, right? And then you add in the Mulan Glacier, and that does take it up to 6, which is a lot of cards. It can also set up Totally Awesome to negate cards. So between all these, it can do an awful lot. But we do see the potential interruption of Ash coming from Alec.
And 1 for 1.
1 for 1. Again,
I
like one of the most
card.
explosive cards in the game being used to summon a Meliseek, which is one of the least explosive cards in the game. Meliseek is pretty good, though. It does out most of the problems for the Altergeist deck.
So, Yuqi Qin goes first. He summons the Undyne.
What's Mermail Abyss Nerol? Is that that's a newer Mermail card, isn't it?
It is indeed.
you can discard it and target a water monster and destroy another water monster in your hand or field to gain some bonus attack points. And if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can draw a card and discard a card. I'm not sure what he's going to do with that, but I guess we'll find out.
Though.
Well, it's got, yeah, more than one effect. That's what versatile means. But shutting down the Dragoon search has basically just ended the turn for Qin, which is really not what he wants. Interesting, Alec has neglected to use the 1-for-1. He does have the personal spoofing to get his engine going anyway, I suppose, so it makes sense.
And it feels like Alec has a strong hand as well. He'll be able to...
It does always feel that way when you summon a 2600 attack monster.
But with the solemn warning as well, how do you feel about that?
I think he probably feels pretty good.
Yeah. He had the Ash to negate.
That's a very shiny card. What's the very shiny card? Is that a marksman? So I see the Nero, which is being used as a sort of pseudo-honest. Is that just destroyed the Dragoons? Ah, surely.
It is a quick effect.
It is. So he can be used in the damage step, but I feel like destroying a Dragoons from your hand to give one of your monsters bonus attack points feels really sad. Like, I don't know how you feel about that, but Dragoons is a pretty good card, and he's
well, he does have the Moulin Glacier in his hand. I'm thinking, is he trying to plan for future?
Well,
use
yeah,
of
I mean,
that?
he's obviously
he's trying to fuel.
I mean, he's just keeping control of the board at this point. But I just feel sad discarding Dragoons. I mean, maybe Qin didn't use it in the damage step, and if he didn't use it in the damage step, then Alec could just chain the effect of Prankratops. Which, yeah, that's a bit unfortunate for him. Maybe Qin hadn't read what Prankratops did and that it was a quick effect. Because if he'd used it in the damage step, then Alec cannot chain Prankratops, right? But if he sort of got too excited and just shotgunned it, then you can just chain the Prankratops, and then it's kind of
Taken
gone
away.
to pot a bit, yeah. Because even now, I mean, the impact of the Moulin Glacier is a lot less if your opponent doesn't have any cards in your hand. It's just a monster you summon from your hand. You can see both players sort of smiling. I think Qin's maybe a little bit upset that he made that little mistake. And now again, I think the Altergeist deck is going to start to get its engine going and grind. He is ahead on life, even if I don't think time's going to be a factor in this game, but
He's set the Nimble Sunfish.
yeah, Nimble Sunfish is a card that you are supposed to set, maybe. When it's destroyed by battle, I think it summons either another Nimble monster or maybe another copy of itself by sending a fish from your deck to the grave. But again, effects like that, they used to be quite powerful, but now I'm feeling they're a little bit slow for the current game. I mean, Alec can just use the effect of Meliseek to attack directly and send it to the graveyard anyway.
Alex seems to be comfortable right now. He's read between the lines. He's got the momentum. I think he's just thinking things through.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, his opponent is very low on cards. He's going to start, again, once the deck has its engine going, it's so difficult. You know that you can negate like 2 or 3 spells. You know you can negate a monster effect, and you know you can bounce a card, and you know you can block an attack. Between all of those things, it seems like there's very little your opponent's really going to be able to do. He's even got the added, traps face down. He's got solemn warning just in case. I don't know. I don't even know what he'd need the warning for at this point. In case of a Denko Sekka. It's like once Altergeist has its engine going, it's almost unbeatable. I mean, the thing is, again, maybe we're just comparing it to other decks where because they explode so fast onto the board, if they haven't got their engine going, it's kind of like that they're not going to achieve anything else. So Altergeist is very much a sort of late bloomer compared to a deck like Goki or some crazy first turn combo deck like the Danger Dark World we saw earlier. So you kind of know, I mean, if the game goes long enough anyway, then whatever the deck's up against, it's going to win. But I think Altergeist is even more powerful at just grinding out the late game.
Alec having a look at the nimble sunfish.
I don't think Alec actually knew what that was what the set was. I think Qin finds it quite funny that his battle trigger was sort of snuck around. I'm pretty sure if you'd asked Alec to guess what that card was, he probably wouldn't have said that. Yeah, he might have thought it was the Gen X controller. I mean, it still plays around Mermail Abyss Lind as well, because Mermail Abyss Lind has to be destroyed.
Indeed.
But I'm not sure anyone even plays Lind anymore. Oh, he does. He plays one Lind. Is it Lind? Is Lind the right one that summons a Mermail when it's destroyed? What do you think?
Tom, I am not sure.
You're not sure? Why aren't you sure?
It's been a long time since I played Mermail.
I'm pretty sure it's the Lind. The Lind was the one you summoned off Sphere, and then it died during the Sphere blew itself up during the end phase, and then you got another Mermail out, and then you could actually use the effect of it.
Sounds familiar.
I mean, you definitely did that. I just can't remember the name of the 1500 attack Mermail that summoned a new one when it was destroyed. I think it was Abyss Lind.
Let's see if we can find it. It was Lind.
Good for me.
Well done, Tom.
Thank you. I mean, meanwhile, Qin's sort of
staring down this field.
Staring down
it's
a lot of
impressive
cards.
from Alec.
Yeah.
I mean, he's assembled quite the intimidating field here.
Indeed. To which Qin is summoning an 1800 attack point monster.
How do you feel about this? Would you just use the Solemn Warning at this point?
I would not.
You'd hold off?
I think so.
In case that Mulan Glacier drops in a little while, or
Mulan Glacier just got dropped.
So
and then it got its butt kicked by an Altergeist Protocol. But I would not use the warning on that because it doesn't do anything.
Okay.
And now they're checking. Honestly, I'd never understood how these. It says you skip. I can't even remember. It might say you skip the battle phase of your next turn, or you skip your next battle phase. And skipping your next battle phase was always a bit confusing as to whether you skipped your next battle phase, and then what if you skip 2 of your next battle phases? What happens then? Do you skip 1 and then another one, or not? But I can't remember whether Mulan Glacier skips your next battle phase. I think skipping the battle phase of your next turn, that makes sense, because then if you do it twice, you know that you don't have to skip 2 battle phases. But if it just says skip your next battle phase, then we're not sure. But I think they've decided that he is allowed a battle phase.
Yeah, they look content and comfortable to proceed.
Yeah, and he's going to just search the... I'm going to guess that's a Kun query, because I don't really know what else he'd be searching right now. Yeah, it's a Kun query. I cheated by looking at the other screen and seeing the Kun query in his hand.
Alec draws for turn.
Did he not search something off the Meliseek? I mean, at this point, I'm not sure. Altergeist is very much it has some sort of sense of inevitability about it, I think, compared to other decks where they might sort of OTK you in one go and you might sort of be holding on and then it just ends the game, whereas Altergeist will be in the situation they've almost OTK'd you, you're just not dead yet. You just have to wait a few turns before the effects of the Altergeist OTK have come through. Unfortunately, we're losing the display a little bit on Alec's side, but I think the cards on his field are more than enough to attack the game right now. If we do a bit of arithmetic, because the Hextia gains extra
there's the
attack.
handshake.
Yeah.
So Alec just persevering there with the Altergeist, just continuing to attack and take away opponents' resources. Let's talk about it some more in the post-match. must feel quite happy about that, because in the first game he was quite slow to get going, and even though both were slow to get
I think
going.
he's probably, it might have played on his mind a bit, that little mistake he made with sending the Melasik to the graveyard while he was under Droll, because it might have been that he'd been able to get his engine going if he hadn't done that, getting that extra search off the Melasik. But then, yeah, he came back and took a fairly comfortable and calm game 2 and 3, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about the first game, the Moulin Glacier straight off the bat for Yuqi Qin, that was a decent play.
The Moulin Glacier knocking out 2, followed by Alec having drawing into the metaverse, which doesn't do anything, and drawing into the spoofing, which again he had no other Altergeist cards, doesn't do anything. So really, just between all of those cards, he was just bricked with nothing to do, and then eventually got beat down by the Mermail deck.
Yep. Game 2, though, he came back. He fought hard. He had those 2 copies of Impermanence that served him well. He went and got one out of the deck, we saw, with Trap Trick, set it into the same column. That was very tactical. Obviously, he kind of read between the lines. He'd seen the Call by the Grave. So, yeah, he pulled it back with that one. But in the third game there, it just felt like everything that Yuqi Qin tried, the Altergeist deck had an answer for.
Yeah. I mean, the Mermail deck can be very explosive. I think there are questions over it as to how well it pushes. So we saw the single copy of Ash there really shut up what Yuqi was trying to do. I think one of the key cards you can draw or not draw in the Mermail deck is Abysteus, and unfortunately Qin did not see the Abysteus. But it's one of those cards which gives you an extra play outside of your normal summon, which the Mermail deck kind of lacks a little bit.
Well, there we have it. Alec takes the win, and we can head over to Ollie back at the stage.
Well, thank you very much, guys. That was an amazing match to watch again. You did come back from a 1-0 defeat in that match, right?
Yeah, game 1 I completely threw away. I just completely hadn't even registered that Droll Lock had been dropped, and then played my only Altergeist into the Droll Lock for no effect, and couldn't use spoofing or search the multiplier, which would have just...
Yeah, it seemed like some of our guys on the chat, they weren't all that impressed in that very moment.
No, that was just glorious. That was magical. So that's what it is.
But you did come back. You did come back. So what did you do after the first duel? Like, how do you motivate yourself? Stay in the game? How did you decide to approach it in terms of side decking?
So I have literal nothing in my side deck for this matchup. Surprise. And I have 3 Secret Village, 3 Metaverse, Imperial Order to try and take out. So game 2, when I knew I was going first, I had to keep in exactly 2 Metaverse, 1 Secret Village for the trap tricks, just to keep that engine alive, because I just didn't have enough stuff to side in, as that was the best guess in case of playing Sekka's Light. That's the only spell that I can reasonably try and negate. So it's better than siding in random, stuff for other matchups.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just a new game, and I got to go first, so that one's usually a clean sweep against basically everything.
So you do win the second game, and then do you feel like, okay, I got this now, I got the momentum, or are you basically, okay, he can go first now, so what's happening in your head after the second game?
So Mermail hands are very polarized. They either do a lot of the stuff or not a lot of the stuff, and fortunately his hand did not a lot of the stuff. I drew one of my 6 hand traps, so that usually stops them doing the very broken things, typically with Moulin Glacier and maybe Gumbler. So I was, looking at the opening hand, I was relatively confident because my hand was just good cards. So yeah, I felt fairly confident from there. And then the rest of it was fairly simple when his hand was terrible.
What do you think, generally speaking, about the Altergeist deck? Because I've seen some players say, well, Altergeist, it's strong, but it's not that fun to play, or it's not that fun to watch. Yeah. What are you're coming to the defense of Altergeist here? What are you doing?
So I'm literally playing Altergeist as a sort of meta call against Sky Striker. Obviously, I'm main decking 7 floodgates for spells. So in theory, the Sky Striker matchup is just a buy, and they have 0 outs to them. So that's the main reason I'm playing the deck. Obviously, Thunder Dragons came in a couple weeks ago, and you're playing main deck Silk as just a repeatable bounce effect, which in theory makes that matchup very strong. And all of their good starters are spells as well, so I was very happy to play all the spell negates for them as well. So that's the idea. Altergeist as a deck is relatively low power in the grand scheme of things. As a core engine, it's not beating Sky Strike, it's not beating Thunder Dragon, stuff like that. But the support you can play with it, and just the place that traps are in at the moment, just Strike and Warning and Judgment are all good cards at the moment. So I was perfectly happy playing them there, and bounce effects are better now than they've ever been. So like, if there was an event to play it, now is the time.
So you're 4-0 right now. If you had the chance to change anything about your deck list, because you have a bit of experience after those 4 rounds, different opponents and all that stuff, would you change anything about your deck list?
So I got convinced to play 1-for-1 at the last minute, just as the 10th access to Multifaker, and that card has been reliably terrible. So I don't know if I play that card again, but like that's just the variance of you need to see Multifaker in some way. So like in theory you have to play it. I just really don't like having to play it. So yeah, I've been on the bad side of variance with that card. Otherwise, it's fine.
Fair enough. Any shoutouts to your friends that tested with you prior to this event?
Yeah, I got the guys from Bristol and the guys from Ireland that we came up with. So be shouting out to you guys. I'm wearing their shirt, so it's what it is. Yeah, and Dan is running the Konami stand behind. So.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Just keep going. We'd love to see you